Lawmakers may be closing in on a budget plan that could cut some of the successful programs in high schools. Proposed revisions could slash 50% of the funding for things like dual enrollment and advanced placement. A local school board member is fighting to stop it and joins us today. Tourism marks an all-time high in the Sunshine State. How is that reflected in Northeast Florida, and what's driving the year-over-year growth? And our region is a golf mecca. We're talking about the all-time best as the Masters winds up this weekend in Augusta, Georgia. All today on This Week in Jacksonville. Glad you're with us today. There are 3 weeks left in Florida's legislative session, and proposed revisions to Florida funding for schools could deliver a sharp blow in supporting programs that provide students the chance to earn college or career credentials. The Honorable Cindy Pearson joining us today in studio, Duval County School Board member for District 3. Our first chance to talk face-to-face, but you've been talking a lot this week with people saying, hey, we've got to sound the alarm about what's happening here. So House Bill 5101, and then it was Senate Bill 2510. Tell us about what's happening here. You even went to Tallahassee this week to try and make sure lawmakers heard from people who are concerned about this.
Yes, so we went yesterday, a delegation of 8 students, 3 teachers, and 3 of us from district, and a parent went to try to advocate for full funding for the bonus program. And even as we were there and on our drive back, there were changes. So you correctly said that we started the day thinking we were talking about HB 5101, and we ended the day, now we're talking about SB 7030. And so the House took up a different bill, did a floor amendment, and we're trying to compare what the Senate passed and what the House passed because they're now in conference.
So Dr. Bernier, the superintendent, Dr. Christopher Bernier for Duval County, sent a letter warning about some of the concerns that he has. He's saying that this plan that we're talking about with these Senate bills and the bills going through the House there could be $8 million lost for the district on certain programs. And you showed me a flyer that I guess the students took when they went to the Capitol and were advocating also. IB, AP, ACE, CAPE, dual enrollment, all of these different things. Tell us what the impact would be as it's proposed now with the funding cuts.
So it's a little hard to know what the proposal is because I was hearing multiple different iterations of it yesterday. So one proposal, which is if you read the bill, it's what it says on its surface, is a 50% cut. Then we were hearing, well, it's not a 50% cut, it's 50% in this program, but that other money will be put into your FTE, into your general fund. So you'll still have it and you'll have the flexibility on how to use it. And then there's another proposal that we're hearing that would, instead of rewarding students passing the exam, and that's what the bonus is, that there would be funding attached to based on projected student enrollment in the programs. And so that's something that we're trying to sort out to know which option looks like they're going to take, and then we can work on advocacy in that area.
What are you hearing about the reason? Why are members of the legislature saying, no, we've got to change this? Do they feel like it's out of balance and has to be fixed? Is there a funding crisis, a budget crisis for the state? What are you hearing about the why on this?
I'm hearing several things. One thing is that this House is committed to making cuts, that spending has become out of control, and so they're going to make cuts. I have heard that there is a feeling that districts have not been spending the money that they get in a responsible manner. I have heard that this new proposal of half and half, or putting the money attached to FTE, would actually give the districts more money. I have heard that when the base student allocation was raised, these percentages were not adjusted, and so districts have been getting too much money, like more than intended, from the bonus program. So we're trying to sift through these things and have data to back up the district's position and try to come to an equitable understanding, and then start from there.
How did it go with this advocacy push? You talked about going to Tallahassee, and you said you took parents, some students, another staff member from the county school board there. But how was this received, and maybe what was even learned for you and the others who were on this trip?
Yes, so we took the students, and the students their job was to visit each office, House and Senate, and to try to engage in conversation and leave the information that we had. And I think that was a total win for the students. They felt empowered, and they now have a vision for that they can actually speak to people who are making laws that affect their lives. So I think that was a win. They got to watch the Senate and House debate, so they were in the gallery for each, and then what you showed was them being recognized. And then they met both of our senators and had pictures taken with them and talked with them. So I think all of that was a win for the students.
It certainly is if you want to see our younger generation kind of activated as citizens.
Well, it's a civics lesson.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a little bit of a math lesson, too, in all of this. When we're talking about that potential of $8 million being gone from, in this case, Duval County schools, as I'm understanding, the money that's received for these programs we're discussing is kind of separated a little bit. About 65% of it going to teacher compensation, and then the remaining 35%. It sounds like these are important things: teacher development, equipment, work-based learning, instructional supplies. If those things weren't able to be done, how does that impact these programs that we're talking about? Because we're not giving away things to kids. They're having a chance to earn college credits or a certification, something for a technical career.
If our funds were to be decreased by 50%, the district would have to reach out to the principals of the schools and ask them to cut where their cuts would be. And some of the items, like you mentioned, are not negotiable. Testing fees for the exams, required trainings for the teachers for programs like International Baccalaureate. There are required trainings. They're only offered out of town. And so there's an expense associated with that. And then, so it would come in the extra, and it could be lab equipment. It could be materials for doing labs in chemistry and biology. It could be equipment for the TV production. It could be equipment for the agriculture program or supplies for that. So that's something the principals would have to figure out, and I'm sure they're already thinking about it, worst case scenario.
Well, we'll wrap up here. We've got about 30 seconds left. But how effective are these programs we're talking about? And do you feel good about, hey, we might be able to stop this from happening?
I think that 50%, what I heard yesterday, is a starting point. So I don't think the cut will be 50%. And I'm hoping that it'll be far less than that. How effective are these programs? Extremely effective. We have students graduating who are ready to go into the workforce or ready to go into an apprentice program and join our workforce here in Duval County. We have students who are leaving high school with up to 45 hours of credit, college credit, who are ready to go into pre-professional programs in college and then come back to Duval County and be our accountants and our engineers and our real estate professionals and our attorneys and our media. All of these different programs and majors that students can do, that's the title of our...
I saw that.
Our students are Florida's future workforce. And so I think an important point that we've been trying to drive home is that whether you're doing academic accelerated or whether you're doing career and technical, these are pre-workforce programs for our students, and they're vitally important to not only the students, but to the state of Florida.
Cindy Pearson, Duval County Schools board member, District 3, thank you so much.
You're
Keep
welcome.
us in the loop on what's going on here. Thank you.
You.
All right, well, stay with us. Here's the question for you. Where do people go for a vacation? Look out the window, you may have the answer. We're looking at the record-setting tourism and some of the factors here in Florida. That's next on This Week in Jacksonville.
You're watching This Week in Jacksonville with Kent Justice.
All right, Florida was the top vacation destination among Americans again. Governor Ron DeSantis spotlighting the record-breaking performance. The Sunshine State accounted for 15.5% of domestic tourism in America in 2024, and that's up by nearly 1 percentage point from 2023. During Governor DeSantis' administration, it's also the 6th time the state has broken its own tourism record. That 2024 trend carrying into 2025 so far. The number of Canadians visiting Florida by air, that's increased by 0.5% the first 2 months. That's also above the national figure, which showed a 2.3% decline in Canadians traveling to the United States. Michael Corrigan is joining us now, the president and CEO of Visit Jacksonville. And Michael, so you've been leading Visit Jacksonville since 2018. What are the trends that you've seen, and how does this feel to have 6 consecutive years where the state broadly is improving in the terms of number of Americans who want to come here?
Well, it's been a roller coaster, Ken. And I always enjoy kind of bringing you up to date on tourism. Obviously, I took over in 2018, and we were making record-breaking numbers. And there's a little pandemic that happened in 2020, so that kind of took everything back down to the baseline. But I'm super proud to say that every metrics that we use at Visit Jacksonville is back to above where we were when 2020 started.
Yeah. So when we talk about some tourism in the state, is it comparable what happens when we talk about the whole state of Florida and what happens in Jacksonville, or can there be an increase over in Tampa and a decrease in Miami, that kind of thing?
Yeah, there definitely can be changes, and they always are. What we look at is how are we doing compared to everybody else in the state, and we continue to be very, very happy with the numbers we see. There's some declines that happen when certain areas of the state have a certain focus, but Jacksonville doesn't have really one singular focus. We're not known as as an attraction destination, so we're able to really buffer those changes a lot easier than other locations in Florida. But everybody in Florida is doing pretty good.
Well, this week, the University of Florida, the men's basketball team, celebrating a national championship. Obviously, that's great for them. But you pointed out, hey, their season started in Jacksonville.
Yeah, super excited about that. The University of Florida played the University of South Florida in the arena, the opening night of basketball season. It was the first game on the SEC network to start the season. I think the University of Florida now knows they need to come to Jacksonville and start basketball season, and it'll be a championship year for them.
They've
also played an NCAA tournament here that started in Jacksonville and won a championship. So Jacksonville and University of Florida basketball, it's a good combination.
Hand in hand. What does Visit Jacksonville do in terms of contributing to some of the local record numbers?
Well, we obviously are marketing Jacksonville on a daily basis. And what we've found out is that our average daily rate and our average occupancy, 2 of the biggest things that the lodging industry tracks, they continue to break records. They broke a record in November, December, January, and February, and we anticipate they're going to break another record in March. We just finished the Players' Championship here in Jacksonville, down in Ponte Vedra.
It's always big for tourism.
It's always a big number in March for us. So we're very optimistic and happy about the numbers.
Yeah, and so we talked about a couple of sporting events. We talked about some other things. But what about meetings or conventions in Jacksonville? Is that something that still has potential? Are we capped because of the size of the Prime Osborne or hotels downtown? Or what's the status there?
That's actually the secret sauce to our current success. After the pandemic ended, our tourism numbers went way up and kind of peaked at a certain point, but the group numbers, the conventions and conferences and company meetings had not come back to Jacksonville yet. But now we're seeing, in last year and the beginning of this year, those numbers are coming back up, and that's really what's making us reach those record numbers, because Jacksonville has a unique blend of attracting a smaller type conventions and conferences. We don't bring in the massive ones that take over an entire city. We do that occasionally, but not very often. But those little conferences and conventions, and whether they're held in a hotel, the Prime Osborne Convention Center, are really in some of the really unique venues that we have here in Jacksonville. That's the secret for us to be able to do it. And what Visit Jacksonville does is as we talk to those groups about coming to town, we make sure they understand they are the big thing in town when they get here. It may be a conference of just 300 people, but everybody in town knows they're here, they're treated amazingly, and they often want to come back and see Jacksonville again.
So we're through the first quarter of the year in 2025. What are the next 3 quarters? What's the rest of 25 look like in terms of tourism or events? We're
optimistic about it, but we also know that it's a changing economy, it's a changing world, and you mentioned the numbers of Canadians come to the United States and coming to Florida. We think those numbers are going to stay steady, but you never really know. You continue to work and make sure, but we're optimistic. We think that there's an opportunity for Jacksonville to now take part in increasing the tourism numbers. As I mentioned, conferences and conventions, any professional person goes out of town to some conference or convention, and our question to them is, when's the last time you invited those people to come to your city to hold that conference or convention? We're running a program called Bring It Home Jacks, and we're asking for the citizens' help. Tell us what we can help you bring to Jacksonville. You don't have to do any work. Just one phone call or one email to Visit Jacksonville. I mean, you can literally send an email to Michael at Visit Jacksonville, and we'll begin the process of helping you bring your conference, convention, or company meeting to Jacksonville.
So what you need from local people is the idea.
Yeah, exactly.
And then send it your way.
What prouder thing to do than show off your hometown to people that you work with in the industry?
It's a good place to be. It really is. Northeast Florida is fantastic. Michael Corrigan, appreciate your time and best success. Thanks for talking through tourism and how things are going.
Always enjoy visiting with you. Thanks, Ken.
All right, so we are not predicting the winner of the Masters today. We are, though, talking about the greatest golfers of all time. Stay with us on This Week in Jacksonville.
You're watching This Week in Jacksonville on Channel 4.
Northeast Florida hosts one of the biggest and best thought of golf tournaments when the Masters happens, the Players happens each March, often called the fifth major. Well, April means the first major of the year. Yes, that's the Masters, which happens just up the road in Augusta, Georgia. In the midst of the Masters, we're joined today by author Michael Arkush. She's written The Golf 100, a new book that ranks the greatest golfers of all time. And Michael, welcome. Best golfers in the world. They've been teeing it up this week, and we saw Rory McIlroy win the Players 4 weeks ago. So tell us about your book, and there's really, for golf fans, right, there is a great debate about who the best is.
There is, and everybody thinks it's between Jack Nicklaus and Tiger Woods, and it is, although I gave serious consideration to putting Bobby Jones number one. Look at what Jones did in the 1920s, Grand Slam 1930, quit the game at the age of 28, won 13 majors in his last 21 starts. So Jones was in contention in my mind for top player of the year. It came down to Tiger versus Jack. I can get to that in a minute. I went back and read every single Golf Digest article since 1950. Yes, it's true. I do not have a life. And I looked at YouTube forever, and that's a rabbit hole. Went through every tournament and came up with a numerical system to rank the greatest golfers, male and female, of all time.
I might need to know more about this system. Let me ask, though, how serious is the conversation versus how many, I don't know, characters and there's sometimes bizarre stories that we hear?
How serious is the conversation, meaning?
Well, so with your book and looking into who these 100 top golfers are, I mean, they've all got their quirks and idiosyncrasies. And obviously what you're just talking about we're not talking recency bias. Tiger Woods or Jack Nicklaus is how many tournaments they've won. But there are other factors, I'm sure, for you on what goes into the greatest of all time.
Well, yeah, it's contribution to the game, impact on the game. It's not just what happens between the ropes. Greatness is more than just your performance. It's your character, your demeanor. Between Nicklaus and Woods, Jack Nicklaus won 20 majors, not 18. Okay, let's get that straight. Everybody says he has 18. They forgot about the 2 amateurs he had, which were counted as majors for the longest time. Somebody took them away. I'm doing an investigation. I'll let you know who it was when I find out. That takes nothing away from Tiger. He should be the greatest golfer of all time. He's not, and that's because Tiger imploded. Jack did not.
Wow. Okay. So I know that people are going to, matter of fact, you're saying this and somebody's watching right now, disagreeing with you wholeheartedly. What about some of the fan
Bring it
favorites?
on.
Yeah, right? That's exactly the point of it, right? What about some of the fan favorites? Phil Mickelson, Nancy Lopez, Lee Trevino. Where do they rank on the list? And that recency bias comes to mind for me. Modern players like Scottie Scheffler or Rory, Xander Schauffele, Jordan Spieth, all of those players.
Scotty's not on the list. I mean, he came real close, but his body of work wasn't that level. Phil is number 13. Phil has 6 majors. He should have 8 or 9. He threw them away with his aggressive play. Nancy Lopez, you bring her up. She was the LPGA's Arnold Palmer. The only problem with Nancy is she never won the U.S. Women's Open. And in my mind, when you don't win your national championship, that takes something away from your greatness.
Yeah, but great nonetheless. Yeah, that's a great point.
Absolutely.
So, Michael, you talked about it. You established a ranking system, places a heavy emphasis on the game's major championships. Tell us a little bit more about that, profiling some of these accomplished, impactful, and the best ever.
Well, I think it's important to remember that the U.S. Amateur and the British Amateur were majors for the longest time. So I counted that. Part of my whole mission was to restore the glamour of the amateur. Majors are the barometer of greatness in this game. That's why we're talking about the Masters. That's why we're excited. We don't zoom in on other tournaments. We focus on the big 4 that happen every year. And in your neighborhood, the Players is obviously a huge tournament as well. That's how we define greatness. In the biggest moments where history's on the line, how do the players come through? Do they step up or do they falter?
Michael Arkush, author here. So as I'm looking at this in your book, described as crafted from hundreds of interviews and longtime relationships developed over a quarter century. If that's the case, you had to write this book, right?
You're absolutely right. I really feel like I didn't have a mission in life until I did this. I'd followed these guys as a kid, and I got to know them when I was covering them. And I just wanted to sort of put it in my own perspective, what it all meant. What has it all meant to me in my career, in my life, to work and follow these guys? And where do they rank in the history of this game that we love?
Yeah. Let me show some quick video here, and then we'll wrap it up. But the par 3 contest this week at the Masters. This just takes it home for me because before the serious golf got started, you see families out there, you see the kids knocking in, the putts, and really sets the tone for what is a very serious game and a really enjoyable thing for golf fans.
I got to put her on the list. That was a great putt. No, seriously, it is a serious game. I mean, you look at the intensity of these players this week. Although I really wish players would react more to fans. You mentioned Nancy Lopez. I wish more players would show emotion and remember the reason they're out there and they're rich and famous is because of us, because of our support and all the fans who watch them.
Yeah, Michael Arkush, appreciate it. Everybody should be looking for the book because the arguments will continue as long as there is golf. Thanks for being with us today. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
All right. Hey, I'm Kent Justice. Thanks for watching on air on Channel 4 and the CW17, and then online at news4jax.com or streaming on News4Jax Plus. And don't forget to check out This Week in Jacksonville Business Edition, our podcast. The episode this week looks at the ASUN Conference and the decision to bring the conference championship tournaments for both men's and women's basketball to Jacksonville next year. You can find new episodes every Thursday at 9 a.m. You'll find it right now on News4Jax Plus under the channel This Week in Jacksonville.
See why every day more people are choosing News 4 Jax, Northeast Florida and South Georgia's #1 source for local news.